Campobello Island, it can't help but make one reflective. And as Geoffrey Chaucer once said, time and tide wait for no man. Oh!
And neither do I. My name is Chelsea, and I'm here to tell you all about the tides. 71% of the Earth's surface is actually covered in water. 96.5% of that is oceans. Now, everything on this Earth is affected by the gravitational pull. And that's what actually keeps us here on the surface. Now, what you might not realize is that the moon's gravitational pull also affects us here on Earth. Here on land, the effects are so minor that you can barely feel it, and you need very special equipment to detect that. But the waters are a different story. They love to be pushed and pulled by gravity, and our oceans, and here in the Bay of Fundy, it is absolutely no exception. So bear with me for a minute as I try to explain the gravitational pull of the moon for you. We're going to pretend that this balloon is the gravitational force around the Earth, and the moon is in direct line with my arms. So as the gravitational pull of the moon pulls on the Earth, it actually creates two pressure points here on the side, creating two bulges in direct line with the moon. Now what this does is the Earth rotates very fast, and it goes through both of these bulges twice in a day, creating the two high tides that we get. When it rotates through the narrow parts where the pressure points are, where my hands are, you experience your two low tides. Now these tides are not always the same. As the moon gets further and closer to the Earth, as it gets closer, we have spring tides. They are very high, very extreme, and as the moon gets further away, it has less of a pull, and we get our neap tides, our lesser tides. Now, what does this have to do with the Bay of Fundy? Absolutely everything. So folks, as you can see, we're back here at Con Robinson about 6 hours later, and you can tell that the scene behind me has changed quite a bit. I really wanted to show you the extreme tides that we have here at the Roosevelt Campobello International Park. We are in the Bay of Fundy here, and we have the highest tides in the world. And there are two reasons for this. One of them is the actual shape of the bay, and the second is the length of it. And I have a little map here to help me explain this to you. So as you can see, the Bay of Fundy is shaped like a funnel. Down here at the mouth of the bay, it is very wide and very deep, and up here at the top, it's rather narrow and a little bit more shallow. So all that water has to go somewhere, and it tends to go up when it hits the top over here. And also, I mentioned the length of the bay. When a wave enters the bay here, it's going to take a little over 13 hours to travel the entire way up and back out. When the tide comes in, it only takes about 12 hours and 25 minutes to go all the way in and out. So the bay is actually filling in on itself, creating a little bit of a resonance factor. So between the shape of the bay and the length is why we get our extreme tides. Now, growing up in southern Maine, I thought extreme tides were about 8 to 10 feet. And then I came here to Campobello and discovered that we have tides of 22 feet. And those are actually quite low, because when you go up here to the top of the bay, you are going to get a max spring tide of 58 feet. There is over 160 billion tons of water that comes in and out of this bay on a daily basis. And just to give you an idea, that is more than all the freshwater rivers in the world. Now, with all of this water flowing around in the Bay of Fundy, we have a couple of really neat factors. Up here in the Nova Scotia area, we have a famous fossil deposit. If you go to the rivers up on the top of the bay, you're going to see the reversing falls or the tidal bores. And down here in our own little corner of the bay, we have the Old Sow, which is the second largest natural whirlpool in the world. Now, even with all of these amazing factors about the tides here in the Bay of Fundy, they have a much simpler meaning to me. When I decide I'm going to the beach for the afternoon, I definitely check the tides, because if it's going to be high tide, we're going to come right here to Con Robinson and jump off of these rocks into the water, which would be around my feet right now. And if it's low tide, we'd be out at the lower duck ponds, walking the sand, looking for sand dollars. So the next time you come to Campobello, come on down and explore the tides with me on our beaches.